Hi, everybody. My name is Melanie Rogers, and I'm inviting you all to tune in to my show, Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow, every Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ClearSourceRadio.com and iHeartRadio. Hey everyone, you are now listening to Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow on the Clear Source Radio Network. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to my show, Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow on Clear Source Radio, where people inspire people, also heard on iHeartRadio. My name is Melanie Rogers. I'm your host, and I thank you so much for tuning in. We do have some background noise, so hopefully it won't be distracting, but if you hear some voices in the background, we have some people getting spirited back there. So hopefully, like I said, it won't detract. It won't take away from whatever I choose to talk about tonight. Let me tell you about my week. My week has actually been pretty good. This is the first week because I changed schedules. And we have two schedules. We do what's called a compressed schedule, where we work 9-hour days. And every other week, we end our 9-hour days on an 8-hour day, therefore equaling 40 hours a week. And every other week we end up getting 3 days off. According to everybody else, it's 3 days off. I keep telling them it's 45 minutes less than 4 days off in a row. And since we changed our schedule and lengthened each particular schedule from 6 weeks to 8 weeks because we have 3 different schedules. Yeah, don't try to keep track because you won't be able to. But anyway, my point is that we went from 6 weeks in one schedule to 8 weeks. And I'm really noticing right off the bat, that feels so much longer than when we had our 6-week schedule. I personally am hoping to go back to the 6 weeks at a time. And because we change our days off, we change our hours, our work hours and such. Moral of the story is, this past weekend was my first 3-day weekend, even though I keep telling everyone, which is correct, it's like 45 minutes less than getting 4 days off because we work a compressed work schedule. We end up working 40 hours a week, but we work 9-hour days instead of 8-hour days. Therefore, every other week we get an extra day in a row. We get 3 days in a row. Like I said, it's actually closer to 4 days in a row because we end on a day shift, we go back on a night shift. So anyway, don't try to keep track. Like I said, it's very difficult. So being that we just they changed it a little bit. And instead of having 6 weeks per schedule, per set of days off and set of certain work hours, we are now on 8-week rotations. And that just those 2 weeks, boy, it feels like I've been on 8-hour days forever. And the only thing bad about 8-hour days, which is not a compressed work schedule, we do one non-compressed work schedule, is that even though we're only working out 8 hours a day, and a lot of people really do notice that, going in late for night shifts and leaving a little earlier for day shifts, we only have 2 days off in a row, which, is still a blessing. But at the same time, when you're used to, doing the 2 other compressed work schedules where we end up getting 3, almost 4 days off in a row every other week, I really like that schedule. There's something great. That's what I love about, I love my job. I love my crew. I'm in the best crew ever. We get along. We're like family. And I'm also in a work schedule that changes now every 8 weeks instead of every 6 weeks. But, it's constantly changing. Therefore, there's a little something special in each particular schedule, and there's a little something that, that's what I don't like about it. Like when we have weekends off, yay, we're on compressed schedule. Therefore, we have weekends off, which is a good thing. And every other week we have 3 days off, like I said, but we give up Sunday pay, which, that affects the pocketbook there. The 8-hour shifts, like I said, they're shorter days, which is fantastic, but we only get 2 days off. We go for that 8 weeks without getting our 3 to 4 days off. So anyway, lesson in all that, other than just catching you up with my week, intro into the show for the night, is that if you look hard enough, and in this case, I don't necessarily have to look very hard, there could be something positive in everything, even if there's a positive and a negative in everything, okay? So you can look at things from one perspective or another. I choose to look at things from a great perspective. I like the idea that I constantly have changing schedule. It changes so much, it's crazy, but, I can keep up with it now. But it gives me kind of the best of all worlds at some point. Sometimes we're working and we get maximum pay. Sometimes we're working and we get maximum days off. Other times we're working and we get shorter days. It just, it's a very good setup in my book. So I understand how blessed I am. Moral of the story of all that is that I just came off of my first 3-day weekend in a couple of months. So and we're on weekends off. Yay, we're on weekends off. So I'm going to have to fill in those weekends and start doing some fun stuff. Also utilize my extra day off every couple of weeks and get some stuff done at my house. Since the weather's it's kind of cooperating. It's been warming up a little bit with some cold spurts in between. I don't know what it's like where you are, but I know we haven't had any snow this year, but we've had a lot of rain. But we also had some really nice days as well. And I'm going to be working on my deck outside again this year. So I'm going to have to inspire myself, motivate myself, and get myself all pepped up to start working on that. So anyway, that whole 6-7 minutes to tell you that I just came back off of back onto my 3-day weekends. Yay. So this past 3-day weekend, and this is actually significant in my world, believe it or not, I still have my Christmas tree up. I didn't have it decorated, no. I took the decorations down, everything else. But my house has been so cluttered, which is something we all work on, of course, at the beginning of the year. Going into the spring is going to be a big deal to get rid of the clutter. Now, we're going to do, at some point, I'm sure, a whole show based on that, what I've actually learned about clutter and anxiety. And there's so many things that you can take out of your surroundings when you are surrounded by clutter. And I have so much stuff I need to get rid of, so many things I need to organize that makes life a little more stressful. And so I did not take my Christmas tree back down where I got it, because in the process of having it upstairs and decorating for Christmas, I moved stuff around downstairs, and my downstairs was a mess. I didn't have a place to put it. So that's a big deal. I actually got things moved around, organized, which always makes me feel like I'm a little more in control of things. Got that Christmas tree back downstairs, and was finally able to pull my beautiful couch that I bought over a year ago and stuck in my garage. I know. I cringe when I think of how I let things go sometimes. And practicing balance, like I'm always talking about on here, is a big part of that. So I'm going to start getting better. I'm going to make an effort to get better with all of that. So I did by myself, Wonder Woman here, by myself, carried that couch, got it stuck in the hallway because I had to carry it up the stairs, and it got stuck, of course. But I feel so empowered when I'm able to do something like that. No, I'm not recommending to anyone to try to do that by yourself, but you have to understand, I'm still my dad's daughter. I still am my dad's daughter, and I still, if I have something that needs to be done, then I just do it. I get in there and I do it. I have friends coming, my best friend and her son's coming in a couple of weeks, and I need to get my house in order, and I need to get the show on the road, start this spring on a really good note. And with that being said, we just sprung forward. How did that affect you? I'll tell you how it affected me. The fact that I've been trying to slow down these days, take a moment throughout the week, take a moment every day, whatever, and pay attention to my surroundings, which I'm going to stop right now. Everybody stop, take a deep breath, and focus on something. Look around you right now and focus on something to bring you into the moment. Because if you're like me, I wasn't until I just said that. Honestly, I wasn't. My mind was all over the place trying to figure out, okay, where are we going to go with this show tonight? And thinking back to my weekend, everything else, I wasn't in the moment. So now I feel a little more grounded in the moment. So anyway, I brought my couch upstairs and, what I was talking about. See, that's what happens when you get in the moment. You're able to focus, i.e. I am able to focus a little better. Bringing myself back into the moment, just talking about how that hour springing forward really did affect me this year. It feels like my days are being taken away from me. So it's more important than ever for me to stop, smell the roses, live in the moment, and pay attention to the fact that we are here right now. I went to, other than getting some stuff done at my house, like I said, Sunday, I went to a salsa dancing class. Told you about it before. Said I was going to start trying to do movement. That's been my thing for this year, is to work on movement of body, movement of mind, emotions, and such. I have not focused on that. That was supposed to be the focus, however, I haven't been doing it. So I went ahead, and the Groupon that I bought for these salsa dance classes, I went ahead and took charge in the moment and scheduled. So I went there, and let me tell you, I had a lot of fun. Made me realize I really do need to start doing the yoga and the stretching again, because my body is just so stiff and so compressed. Makes it really hard to do something like salsa. Now, this is kind of interesting. Before I start talking about what I really was going to come on here and talk about, I was having a conversation with my dad after my salsa class, and I told him all about it. And it made me realize how much more there is to everything in life. And I've kind of known this, obviously. I look into a lot of things. Everything from going to my acting class, and how many different things that was actually teaching me other than just acting. How many different phases of life that was helping me reflect on. How many, I don't want to say issues, but how many different life things that something like the acting class was bringing to my attention and helping me work on. Well, the salsa class did the same thing. There were so many things about this salsa dancing class, and maybe even if you are not interested in something like dance. I told you when we started our episode 22 way back, because we're on like episode 126, holy Moses, way back when I was talking about my favorite, or one of my favorite episodes, episode 22, Defining and Tackling Mel's Bucket List. I invited everybody to tag along with me when I started tackling my bucket list, doing some of the things that I always just wanted to experience. I invited you to tag along with me for many reasons. Now, if some of the things that I do, you want to tag along as I talk about it and experience it for yourself, then I say go for it. Let's live vicariously through each other. Let's experience this together. If something that I'm doing like salsa classes don't grab your fancy, I guess, then maybe some of the things I'm learning about these particular experiences might. Okay. One of the things I realized was a big deal for me in the salsa class was to loosen up. Now, loosening up goes so deep. It's not just a physical thing, it's also an emotional thing. Am I right? Okay, now, when I realized how stiff I was, I talked about this before, this article that I read talking about your hip flexors. I've always been tight in my midsection. It's always been tight. It led to a muscle spasm, which made things worse. Okay, so I'm just that tight person. It's hard for me to relax all that. Now, I also linked it to the emotional toxin trapping, let's say. when I was talking many, many shows ago about how there's some sort of chemical, I wish I can remember exactly what the scenario is, some sort of chemical, I think, that either gets suppressed or absorbed or something when we experience fright, like emotional fright, especially if it's some sort of emotional fright that we're aware of isn't real. Okay, the example that they used with that was when we're watching a scary movie and we see a part that's scary, we clench, okay? Apparently there's some sort of chemical that is triggered or absorbed. I don't remember, but I'll try to find that thing, that article. I'm sorry, I am tired tonight. Anyway, what I was talking about was the fact that we have a fight or flight mode, okay? When we experience something that's traumatic in an emotional way, then we're either going to fight or flight. That's actually, that is confronting, I guess, the situation. But when we have a situation that we know isn't real, and that was a lot of it, was like, if it isn't real, then we're going to tense up or whatever, but we're not going to have a fight or flight response because we know it isn't real. Okay, so basically we trap that emotion, the reaction to that emotion inside. I can be totally chopping this up, by the way, but this is the gist I got out of it. And it really linked the tightness in our, like, what do they call it, our flexors, our mid-body, our midsection. Our flexors get very tight. A lot of that is holding in emotions, trapped emotions. Okay, so I already talked about this way before, like I said, how it's interesting that I've been so tight all my life, and I'm also an empath. I also absorb emotions. I also experience a lot of emotions that people may not, experience themselves or experience as deeply as I do and such. So anyway, that's one of the things I realized in this class. It's a big deal for me to go to this class and really try to do well, because part of that is forcing me to relax that flexor area, release. Okay, if you ever watch salsa dancing, how sensual. Okay, that may be a part of it as well. Holding on to that control mechanism when it comes to relationships, when it comes to lack of relationships, when it comes to emotions attached to the opposite sex and such. That may be a part of it as well. So by now, when I do things like this, there's so much more to it than meets the eye. So that may be a part of it right there is, maybe the reason deep inside why I end up going to these classes ends up being to focus more on releasing all that trapped energy, all that trapped emotion. The other part of it is control itself, because what is really interesting, and with most dances, when you have a partner, it's going to be like this. Now, I'm an independent woman, of course. I'm an empowered woman. But guess what happens when you do something like salsa dancing, or even like country western couples dancing or anything like that? When you're the female, you have to go back to primal times. So this isn't a sexist thing, which is a really good thing. Primal times, the man leads. Okay, that doesn't mean that the man is better, or that women's lib, we need to jump in there and say, okay, now women are going to start leading when it comes to dancing just to make things equal. Come on, this is back to primal times where a man leads. He's the protector, so look at it that way. So when you do these dances, the man is lead. Okay, it forces us as the female to trust. That's a big deal. Trust the man. Go with the flow, feel him out, let him lead us, not necessarily by telling us what to do, but gently guiding us. That there's so many lessons in that right there. I think I might end up turning around and doing a show completely about my salsa classes. Like I said, those are little things that I realized during the class itself that is going to make it difficult for me at first. And those are things I'm realizing I really need to concentrate on in order to do well in class. It's not just go in there and try to keep up with and control everything, control my movements, control the steps, learn everything and everything else, because I realize that the more I do that, the worse I'm going to do. I have to go by instinct. I have to learn those steps so that instead of paying attention to my feet, instead of paying attention to my body, it's a natural. It comes naturally. It flows with the music. It also I also get guided gently by the man without him having to tell me what to do. You flow into it. You work as a unit. Everything you can possibly imagine that I would have a hard time with. Okay, being an independent woman and, taking the bull by the horns in life like I have to. So on a much deeper level, this salsa class is going to be very stressful for me in one way, because it's really going to make me focus and aware of those things in life that I'm really trying to release. Okay, so if anything, go take a salsa class with me. We'll talk about it. I'll chat with you. I'll chat on air about it. Maybe you can relate to it. Maybe you can, kind of excel, probably excel faster than I do. But so if you look at it that way, then everything that we do in life is, even if it's just something that we thought, looks really great or would be so much fun, can really learn a lot about ourselves. We can really help release some of our issues, if you will. Okay. All right. So I did that. What else we've got? That's about it. I think we're ready to go into tonight's show. All right. In typical fashion, here's what led me to tonight's show. The smallest little concept got my brain going and led into a completely different area. Now, I called tonight's show Life is Like Boot Camp. Okay. Now, have you ever, because there's two scenarios I want to talk about that had me really thinking deeply on this subject. Would you ever link something like what they're doing now is called core math? I don't know anything about core math. I don't even know the concept of it. I did not look it up. All it did was trigger a possibility in my head that led me to where I'm going to talk about tonight. Could you ever link any concept of boot camp, I'm talking about military boot camp, with core math, the new math system or whatever that they're doing now in the schools? I have it linked up because I think everything links up, by the way. Now, I was having a conversation with my best friend and we were talking about her son. Okay, he's very, very, very super intelligent, by the way. For his age, he's surpassing a lot of kids his age. And she works with him a lot. She helps him. Now, apparently they're doing this core math. I still don't understand. I don't understand where it came from and such, but that's the good part about it, is that when we were talking about it, at first it made no sense to me. I thought exactly how he thought. And here's how intelligent he is for his age. My best friend was telling me that he had a math problem to do, and he was able to do it immediately. He came up with the answer because he's good at math. Well, his teacher told him, no, you have to go back and you have to figure it out a different way. Now, Aiden, who is my best friend's son, he doesn't understand, because here's what he doesn't understand about it. He says, Mom, if I figured it out and I know the answer, I don't understand why I have to do it a different way. Okay, think about that. Now, that really had me going, because initially I thought the whole idea of this core math was ridiculous without looking into it and figuring out why they came up with it. Okay, so I started kind of rationalizing. I came up and said the same thing to her, by the way. I think it was right before she told me that was what he was having a problem with. I said, I don't understand why they're making kids learn math a different way. If math, the way we learned it, it's very simple, but yet it's doable. It works. Why do we have to learn it a different way? Because she was trying to explain it to me. She says, core math is something, and I'm not going to repeat it correctly anyway, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. Something like, she said, okay, like they'll tell you, what's 2 plus 2? She says, we know it's 4. But they'll tell you, no, you have to go back and something about, 20 plus 20. We know it's 40. She says that you go back and, like I said, I don't know what I'm talking about here, but something like you have to figure it out, like the first 10 is in 10s, the second 10s are in 5s or something like that. Okay. Now, like I said, I turned and I told her, maybe, I don't know. My first reaction, like I said, was that makes no sense to me. Why, if they are able to come up with the answer based on regular math, Why are they coming up with new ways to do it? Why are they trying to make it more complicated to come up with the answers? Doesn't that go against American values, I guess, or doesn't that go against, progression? Then I thought about that, and I realized that's what people do. That's what Americans do. Now, I'm going to do a little disclaimer here. I still have no idea what core math is. I have no idea the concept behind it. But in my mind, the possibilities led to life possibilities. So don't, just take this with a grain of salt and understand what I'm trying to say here. When I was trying to figure out why they possibly came out with something like core math, something that gives an alternative to the simplest form, from how I looked at it, something that makes you work harder to get the answer. I really started thinking about that, and that reminded me of boot camp. I'll get to that in a moment. Okay, now, I always try to come up with different perspectives. I always try to come up with bigger, broader lessons. Like, the lesson isn't about math. Maybe the lesson is about life. Okay? That's what I asked her. I said, maybe what they're doing is these kids and people in general in such overdrive. We're in such a hurry. We know this because I open every show trying to slow myself down. I open every show lately talking about being in the moment and giving you my progression and, trying to stop in the moment and pay attention to my surroundings and bring you with me in that way, right? So I understand that concept. And he'll be 7 in just a couple of weeks. He is so far surpassed a 7-year-old level in general, and his mind is always on growing up. What I told her is maybe it's more a life thing. What they're doing is they're trying to slow down kids, not slow them down in their learning process or in their learning ability, but slow down how fast they get to what they're aiming for. Maybe that's a way of slowing them down and also giving them alternative methods. Okay. Now, that resonates with me. Now, the idea of core math, I still don't know. Like I said, it could have nothing to do with that. But now we're on to a bigger concept. If something like core math is designed to teach you without you realizing what you're really being taught, think about all the other life events that confuse people, because people are always looking at A right across the way to Z. I can get from A to Z directly. But wait a minute. Why are they making me go A, B, C, D all the way up there? Why are they making me focus so much on these little things to get to that point? Why are they slowing me down? Why are they making me do so much work when I can get the work done immediately? That is a fast forward frame of mind. That's progression, yes. That is success, yes. That's also the American way versus other countries, I believe. We're in such a rush. Think about it. When we're kids, we're in a hurry, just like Aiden is. I don't want to be a baby. I'm not a baby anymore, Mommy. I'm not a baby. Then, we want to grow up even faster. We want to become a teenager. I don't want to be a baby anymore. I want to be a teenager. I don't want to be a teenager. I want to be considered an adult. You're an adult. You're a young adult on your own. I want people to start treating me like I'm an adult, even though you've just been out there for 5 minutes of your life. Then you become, the next stage. Next thing you know, you're like me, approaching your 50th birthday going, wait a minute, I still want to go back to the playground. And I'm not kidding. I want to go and I want to get on the swing set. I want to play with my friends. Where did all that go? It's that fast-paced frame of mind, okay? It's that skipping ahead. It's always looking into the future, which has always been an issue with me. Now, go back to my concept of core math. Instead of, like she was saying, instead of 20 plus 20 equals 40, okay? Now we move the next step. So we just keep getting, becoming, higher and higher and higher in numbers or whatever. Or we can stop and we can figure out all these different ways to get the end result. What does that teach us? Now I'm an air traffic controller. Stay here with me. I know that I bounce back and forth, but it's in my head this way. I'm an air traffic controller, and what we learn, and this is not something I'm good at, I will tell you this. Sometimes I'm really good at this, but sometimes it's like, now I've got to come up with a plan B. But that, as an air traffic, I probably shouldn't have said that, but that as an air traffic controller is something you have to keep in mind, is that you have a plan. You have a problem progressing or a situation progressing. You have to figure out how to get past that situation, how that situation is going to work out. Now, something happens, okay? Let's air traffic control terms. Say we have 2 planes. Okay, I have 2 planes, they want to land on the runway. I have to keep a certain amount of distance between them, some sort of distance, okay? And here's the plan. I'm going to let this plane land, and then I'm going to go ahead and extend this guy up, and I'll go ahead and turn him inbound when this guy has plenty of time to land. Okay? All right. It's working out. Then you throw a little bit of a wrench in the plan. That first plane lands, everything's going great. He blows a tire. There's an emergency. He's on deck. He's on the runway. Your runway has to be closed. Now you have an aircraft that's coming in and needs to land. That's when you have to immediately come up with an alternative plan. Okay? Now I'm going to send this guy who's up in the air, send him somewhere. Hold him up there, then take care of the first guy, whatever. There's so many different things, especially with my job, that is, you have to keep in your mind at all times. What if this happens right now? You have to have an out. You have to have a different way. You have to have a plan, but then you have to have different ways to formulate to get to the results. You see what I'm saying? Maybe possibly that was the original idea of this core math. I don't know. But that's what I was telling her, is that maybe it slows the kid down from just automatically coming up with the right answer. Slows him down and makes him work harder for it as well. When you work harder for something, you're thinking more. Okay? You're working for your end result. Therefore, your end result is also going to be more satisfying, more of a reward. We work harder in life, we get a bigger paycheck, we get a bigger reward. Okay? The harder we work toward a relationship that works out, that relationship tends to be better in a lot of cases. Think about that as a life thing. Maybe that's what it's doing, slowing them down, making them work harder for their end result, and also giving them, teaching them, building their little brains without them even realizing it, building their brains to understand that there's different ways that you have to formulate different plans. If this one doesn't work out over here, if you can't come up with the answer or whatever, formulate a plan by this one over here. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm going to say this for about the 10th time. I know you're going, okay, you've said it 1,000 times. I'm going to say it one more time. I don't know what core math's about. In my mind, that's what it got me on this concept. Now, how does that link up to boot camp? Well, I just told you how it linked up to my job, boot camp. Now, I've heard this, and this is frustrating to me, to tell you the truth, especially for people who actually go through boot camp but are in the military. And it's not like we sit around talking about boot camp a whole lot, but occasionally I'll hear these comments. In boot camp, they harp on things. Okay, they yell in your face. Things have changed over time, of course. Now I think they're restricted on what they can say and all that, and some of it's good, some of it's not so good. There's a reason for everything. Okay. Some things can be taken too far, of course. Some people can take things the wrong way and it doesn't, help. But the idea behind it, we're going to get to that. Now, boot camp. You go to boot camp, you are treated like you are nothing. You have to prove yourself to be something. Now, they will break you down. You are not supposed to think on your own. You are supposed to take orders. You are supposed to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, even if you don't agree. You are supposed to let them yell in your face and still maintain professionalism. You are supposed to physically be able to do a whole lot more than you probably were ready to do in order to be good enough to pass. Okay? You are supposed to be perfect with certain things or else your whole company will suffer. Okay? You will make a mistake, therefore your whole company will end up suffering. Drop, give me 20. Whole company. Okay? There's so many things that seem so unfair in boot camp, right? Now, the fact that people who've never been to boot camp might look at it that way and think it is ridiculous, it is unjustly, and it is harassment. Now, if you do it right, I'm not talking about actual harassment, because yes, people have taken it too far, but I'm just talking about a normal boot camp with purpose, okay? People who haven't been a part of it will look at it that way and think that they won't understand it. Some people will, of course, but I'm okay with that. Now, people who've actually been through boot camp who still don't understand what you learned, what you truly learned while you were in there, that's what concerns me. If you don't really learn the concept, if you don't really get the very deep underlining lessons that are being taught to you in boot camp, then going out on the front lines is scary. I'm more worried about you. Okay. Now, along the same lines of life is like boot camp, because there's so many things in life that I am starting to look at with the same kind of lens as I look at like boot camp, like that core math, the idea behind the core math, everything else. When you go to boot camp, they're yelling in your face. They are tasking you with minute, stupid, it seems like it's the most stupid thing in the world, teaching you how to, put your bed together. I don't make my bed now, which I really should. There's actually some scientifically proven or some sort of thing proven that starting your day off making your bed is a big deal, but I don't. But it's got to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. When you put your shoes in front of your locker or wherever you put it. It's been a while, so pardon me if I'm not back in that military frame of mind. But if they're not at perfectly touching or at the perfect angle, you will get scrutinized. You will get in so much trouble. Okay? There are so many different things that you have to be perfect. Now, people think that's stupid. They're like, it's just a waste of time. It's so stupid that I'm supposed to be focusing on, this putting my shoelaces the right way or having them completely equal and even. It's so stupid that I'm supposed to stand there and not use my head when somebody's telling me to do something or somebody's yelling in my face. That is so stupid that I'm not supposed to stand up for myself. What does that say? I have low self-esteem. I'm not even supposed to be able to stand up for myself. I'm supposed to let somebody yell in my face. That's, that is unfair. That person over there dropped their weapon and now I have to balance my weapon, with my hands straight forward for 20 minutes or whatever. That is so ridiculous. I don't understand what that has to do with war or just going into the military and doing my job. I don't know what that has to do with life. Think about what it has to do with life. Think about what that is teaching a person when they go into boot camp. We have these headstrong teenagers and such, mostly teenagers, who want to go in the military. And they automatically picture, war, or they picture the officer status, or they picture a lot of times, being in battle, or, the cool parts, like, flying a plane, or, all that entails controlling airplanes. But in order to jump from signing up to becoming that expert in the field, someone who can be deployable, somebody who can go and help wherever you go, do what you're supposed to do, what you're tasked to do. There are so many steps in between. There's a mindset, there's life lessons that they have to be taught, and they have to be taught quickly. And that's why the extreme, okay? Why, when you go into boot camp, are you torn down? Why do we all have to cut our hair short, wear no makeup? Why do the guys have to shave their heads? Why do we all have to wear the same outfits, which are dungarees in the Navy? That's prison wear. That's what they wear in prison. Why do we have to wear the big bulky man shoes? Why? Well, First of all, it's to break down our egos. Because what's like one of the most dangerous things probably that go to war would be ego. Okay? A person's ego, they want to be tough. They want the picture, blowing people away or whatever with the gun. That's ego, and that's distorted. That is such a distorted frame of mind. I heard somebody, I will do a little sidestep here, somebody who I was close to for a period of time, way back, and young kid was going to go into the Marines. And I heard that he had made the statement how he wants to go and he wants to blow people away. That was so disturbing to me. He thought it was cool. He thought that he was this tough guy. He needed to be a Marine, and that was what he pictured. I think if you're going to war and you're picturing blowing people away, you desperately need boot camp. Going to war and being in the military, you should be picturing peace, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, is we're supposed to be protecting, whether it's us against an enemy, whether it's allies, whatever. Okay? So the mindset is a big deal. You go into boot camp, and if they do not tear you down to get out of your own ego, if they do not tear you down to become base level with everybody else so that you grow together and you build yourself up with the proper frame of mind, you are dangerous to yourself and others. Okay? Now, things like the shoelaces and the bedding, perfect hospital corners and all that, and if they see the slightest little thing, they'll come up and they'll rip it off and say, do it again. Why is that a big deal? People think that's stupid, that's a waste of time. I'm in a hurry, once again. I'm in a hurry to get there and do what I'm signing up to do. In my case, to be an air traffic controller and tell pilots what to do. Whoa, no. The reason that's a big deal is that, what does that teach you? It teaches you to pay attention to details. Do you know how important it is when you're in the military and when you are in a job like air traffic control or so many other jobs out there? How important it is to have that frame of mind to paying attention to details. It's those little details that'll make or break you or others. Okay? So the hospital corners, the shoelaces, the perfect uniform. It teaches us to take pride, which is something that I think, I don't know, a lot of kids these days, they need to learn that. They need something to learn to be proud of. Okay? The uniform having to be perfect teaches us pride. Take pride in that ugly uniform. We're talking dungarees, which actually I liked them. They're like jeans and a chambray top for me, but a lot of people think that they're ugly. We have big bell bottoms, they make us look dorky. But when you have that perfect uniform on and you are up to military standards, there's pride in that. I am proud to wear that uniform. There's so much deeper than just put that uniform on, get out there, grab a gun or grab a microphone and talk to a plane or whatever. There's so much more, so many more steps, so many more levels. So much of a mindset that things like boot camp teach you. Okay, that's the importance of it. You are taught, because of all that, we are taught to pay attention to detail, which could be the difference between, in my job, eventually over time, getting into my job, learning to pay attention to those details could be the difference between landing a plane and crashing a plane and killing people. Going to war, it could be the difference between, setting up camp or whatever they do. I've never been on the front lines, but it could be the difference between, accidentally shooting the wrong person. Like how many, what do they call them? Oh my gosh, I know the term and I can't think of it right now, where people are actually accidentally killed by friendly fire. That's what it is, friendly fire. Sometimes things like that can be traced back to not paying attention to details, the little things that you have to do to ensure you know what you're doing, to ensure you know where to fire, who to fire at, whatever the situation is. I don't know. I'm just saying. Those paying attention to details that they really make you do, and they have very limited time to do that, means so much more than just nitpicking and wasting your time. Okay? Paying attention to detail. Taking pride in what you're doing. Focusing on the outcome. What is the main goal? Why are we all supposed to stand there with somebody shouting things in our face and we're supposed to put up with it? So many reasons. Some people think it's stupid and a waste of time and that it's bullying and such. Let me tell you, what does that teach you? It teaches you to take orders, because in the military, and not just the military, in a lot of different jobs and such, you have to follow protocol. You cannot be some renegade who says, that doesn't make sense to me, I'm going to do it this way. You have to follow protocol. That's why the ranking system is the way it is. Not everyone in higher ranks is good, I know. There are scenarios where, it's kind of fallen through the cracks, but how the military and how life in general is set up is that you get to a position because you earn it, because you're trusted in that position. The higher you go, you have subordinates underneath you who are supposed to be able to trust you and follow your lead. You're supposed to be able to designate to those subordinates. Over time, they work their way up. They become better at what they do, and then they work their way higher. They end up with subordinates. It's all a teaching system. Okay, why you can't just immediately go in as, hey, great, you have this personality. We're going to use this personality to get you here, and you have that personality, and you have guts over here. We all have to go in as one. We have to be broken down. We have to get rid of our egos. That is so important, so that we learn the way of the military. We learn to follow directions, because even if we don't see, we never see the full picture. It's not up to the, airmen and such to see the full picture. It's not your job, but it is your job to take those orders. So things in boot camp, like somebody who is higher ranking and in charge, screaming at you and making you pay attention to details, making you do things that you don't necessarily agree with. It's teaching you not to become just mind numb and not to just always follow the crowd in life. It's teaching you for a very, very important job that will be the difference between saving and taking lives. Okay, so I'm getting deep into the military part of it, but I thought it was really interesting that a conversation like core math really had me thinking the depth of life and the lessons in life. So sit back and think about it. Think about even things in jobs. Think about your parents. A lot of us had really great parents who had really great goals for us, okay? Everybody makes mistakes in life, so, sometimes that turns, but sometimes we don't see what they were really trying to teach us, because we are that young person who knows everything, just like that person going into boot camp knows everything. Just get ready to jump out there, be that adult, and take charge of the world, because we know everything and we're capable of everything. Okay? When do we learn those lessons that our parents were trying to teach us? When do I really learn those lessons? We don't necessarily learn those lessons in teenage years. A lot of times we learn those lessons as we get older and we start to really understand life. In jobs, our jobs, what would have made it easier for me? There are so many different things, like even in my job, in my life, that, yes, I had to learn it on my own. We do. We have to learn things for ourselves. But you look at it and think, if I was as wise as I am now, if I went way back so many years for this job or whatever, I would have done so great, because my whole mindset would have been different. You ever see that thing where they say, if you can go back in time knowing what you know now, where would you go? Like, how far back would you go? What scenarios would you redo? Anything like that? Well, that's the thing. That's why that's so significant, because if we were able to go back with our mindsets that have been groomed over the years, okay? We've been formed and groomed, not all in good directions, But we talk about that as well. I talk about that all the time. If we end up in a certain place in life or whatever, and even if we've had things happen that, causes us these problems or whatever, it's our responsibility to try to guide ourselves back the right direction. Our life is based on lessons. Everything in life is based on lessons. A lot of those lessons come early in life because that's when we're learning. That's when we're getting ready to become adults. We need those lessons. We don't see those lessons a lot of times. We don't understand how many lessons we were actually learning until we're old enough and wise enough to catch it. Like I can look back now and think, wow, boot camp taught me so much. It taught me all of this. It taught me to slow down. It taught me to pay more attention to detail. It taught me to live in that moment, because if you're too far in the future, you're not paying attention to what you're doing, then you're going to end up getting in trouble. Then they're going to use peer pressure against us by punishing the whole crew. Then, your whole group is punished. They're mad at us. They use peer pressure. People don't think that's fair. That's using peer pressure to get you to pull your head out of your behind when you're not paying attention like you should be is brilliant. It's brilliant, especially when you're that age. Who do we listen to when we're that age? When we're like teenagers and such, are we more apt to listen to our parents? Are we more apt, a lot of times, to be swayed more by our peers, our siblings or our friends or just people about our age, whatever? We tend to believe that because our peers are going through the same kind of things that we are, that nobody else understands. Our parents can't possibly understand. So when we do something like boot camp and they are brilliant enough to use peer pressure against us, we don't want our peers they're right there with me. They think along the same lines as I do. Maturity-wise, we're there. They're doing the same job. They're expected to do the same thing. If I fail, they have to be punished. My peers are going to be going off on me. My peers are going to be mad at me. That's a little different than your parents being mad at you. Because when your parents are mad at you, well, that's, you get punished by your parents. That's a given. They don't understand. They're a different generation, right? But our peers, at least in our mindset back then, but our peers are mad at us and basically punish us. And sometimes they can just simply punish us by being mad, by having to suffer our consequences. We suffer, and sometimes that teaches us more of a lesson than being told something when we're not truly taking it in. You see what I'm saying? Okay, now that's boot camp. So you never look at boot camp differently. When you think boot camp, when you think of our military people going out into the world, think of how important it truly is for them to take that short period of time. We're talking only like 2 months' time, and go from these teenagers who know everything and they can figure out the problem like that. Okay, next, bring on the next thing. Their egos are out of control. Their hormones are out of control, which feeds their egos everything else. And they're going to go out there and they're going to defend the country. Okay? How important do you think boot camp is now that you look at it that way? How important do you think it is to break their ego a little bit and make them understand the importance of slowing down and listening and paying attention and having the same goals and doing the best you possibly can so that others don't suffer? Now, that peer pressure thing, what if you're out in battle and you screw up? You screw up, you can end up getting your whole platoon or, whatever, depending on your branch, killed. Do you see the direct correlation with what they teach you in boot camp? Now, this isn't a show tonight about boot camp per se, but like I said, life lessons, everything from my ideas behind the possibilities of core math to, boot camp and any kind of job training to life events, just plain life events, things we go through life with our parents, things we go through with our siblings, our family members, our friends. We go through different things with our friends. We're constantly, and this is something I put out recently as well, the whole, friendship is there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And we're constantly, I think a lot of people, and I'm sure some people in this world, they grow up with the same people, they stay friends with the same people, they're their family all their life. That's fantastic. But I think a lot of us who move away from home or go into the military or do whatever, we go through so many different sets of friends and think about, instead of holding on to all the people that we've gone through and maybe we're not friends with anymore, or we're not as close to anymore, instead of like holding on to the negativity behind every one of those scenarios, every ex-boyfriend, every ex-girlfriend, every ex-husband or wife or ex anything. Part of this whole life lesson is understanding that you should pay attention. Yes, I am saying you should. I am lecturing right now, which I never do. Okay, let's change that. If you, like I do, pay attention to all those different scenarios as, I got something out of that. I was in that scenario. Even if you're in the worst scenario in the world, you start hanging out with people that you should not be around. You make huge mistakes, everything else. It's an opportunity to learn from that. You've experienced that. That teaches you, that gives you the opportunity to learn the lesson. Okay? We are constantly in life, every scenario we get into, whether it's a job, whether it is a group of friends, a specific friend, whether it's not going through different family members, but learning from different family members, just different situations, everything else in life. All of that teaches us through life. Okay? That's the idea. That's the huge concept idea behind everything that I just talked about, that started off with a simple conversation about core math. Okay. I hope you're in the same mindset as I am, because it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating. As I was thinking about this and started thinking about boot camp, I started reflecting back on things that changed me over a lifetime and how many of those things I allowed to change me in the wrong direction. Okay. You don't always have to be perfect either. Sometimes going in the wrong direction is, in its own lesson, as long as you don't go too far, and can bounce back. But the whole idea behind all of this is to keep in mind what life in general is teaching us. That's called wisdom. As we get older, we become wiser. Therefore, our parents, our CCs in boot camp, our bosses, all of those people who've worked to get where they are, who've had a longer life, in some cases they're older than us, our older generations that everyone wants to criticize these days, our older generations, they got to where they are just like we are, progressing as we go, as long as we take the lessons out of it and continue to progress. We can understand all them better as we get older and more wiser. So basically it's a wisdom thing. Okay. So anyway, I think that's pretty much all I've got tonight with that. Let me think. Is there anything within the next week that... No, nothing I can think of. So, all right. Well, I have my best friend's coming in a couple of weeks with her son. So maybe he'll teach me a little of the core math. I will actually be interested. I think I'm going to have him do that. I think I'm going to have him show me how that core math works. And who knows, maybe I'll tell him my theory and make him realize that maybe it's with reason. I don't know. I've got to look it up because I don't know if I agree with it or not. I kind of agree with my interpretation of why they do it, but like I said, my interpretation could be completely my own. So anyway, all right, now stay tuned for Tiffany Lewis coming up next on Be the Change, and I will talk to all you lovelies next Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on clearsourceradio.com. Good night.